Now that we have our feet wet with a few short Java programs, it is time to start going deeper and understand the concepts in detail. In this video, we will look at code blocks and tokens, which are the fundamental unit of all Java programs. You can group two or more statements together by enclosing them between opening and closing curly braces. Such a group of statements is called a code block. Consider code block as a logical unit that can be used at any place where a single statement can. The best way to demonstrate code blocks are the if and for statements we just learned. So let's go to BlueJ and see code blocks in practice. In this program, we have replaced the single statement after if with a code block containing multiple statements. Let's execute it. Go back to the main window and compile the class. Next, create an object of the class. Now use this object to execute the demo if with code block method. Let me bring back the code of the class on the top. Here a is less than b, so the condition is true. The target of if statement is a code block, so all the statements within the code block gets executed. Had the condition been false, none of the statements in the code block would get executed. Let me change the less than to greater than sign. This makes the condition false and now nothing should be printed. I will clear the output of the console window before heading ahead with the execution of the program. Go back to the main window and compile the class again. Create the object of the class and again execute the demo if with code block method. As expected, nothing gets printed on the console window. The block of code behaves as one logical unit as the target of the if statement. Either all the statements in the code block gets executed or nothing is executed. Similarly, code block can be the target of for loop too. Let's see an example of that as well. In this program, the target of for loop is this code block containing these three statements. Let's run this program. As you can see in the output, in each iteration of the for loop, all the three statements inside the code block get executed. Code blocks are used at many other places in the program apart from if statement and for loops, and they have some additional properties as well, which we will see later. The most important thing to remember about code blocks is that they are used to create logically inseparable units of code. Moving on to tokens, all Java programs are composed of tokens. A token is the smallest element of a program that is meaningful to the compiler. The different type of tokens in Java are identifiers, literals, operators, separators, keywords. Except operators, we will look at the other tokens now. Operators we will be discussing in a separate video. Before starting our discussion on tokens, let's first understand how Java handles whitespace. Java is a free-form language. It doesn't enforce any special indentation rules for its programs. Let me show you what I mean by this. I will remove all the whitespace and write this program on a single line. It compiles without any errors. Let's execute it now. It successfully executes. All the new lines and formatting are for improving the readability of programs. A properly formatted program is much easier to read and understand as opposed to when all the code is on a single line. The compiler, however, doesn't need all these white spaces to properly compile the program. In fact, compiler ignores all the white space in your program. In Java, white space includes space, tab, and new line. The first type of tokens that we will look at are the identifiers. In general, programming languages make use of identifiers for identifying all the different things in the program. In Java, identifiers are used to name things like classes, objects, variables, arrays, functions, etc. Java has some rules for forming identifiers. The first rule says that an identifier can be a sequence of alphabets, digits, underscore, and dollar sign character only. To give a few examples, all these identifiers, student name, roll number, Java for champs, $1 to $10, underscore subject, are valid identifiers as they are a combination of alphabets, digits, underscore, and dollar sign characters only. The second rule says that identifiers cannot start with a digit. So second and 20 underscore 20 are invalid identifiers as they start with a digit. As per the third rule, an identifier must not be a keyword or a boolean or null literal. We haven't talked about keywords and literals yet. This rule will become clear after we discuss about them. For now, just keep in mind that keywords, boolean literal and null literal can't be used as identifiers. The examples shown under this rule are invalid because class and static are keywords, true and false are boolean literals, while null is the null literal. One very important thing to keep in mind is that Java is case sensitive. I'm repeating this point again as beginning programmers make many mistakes due to this. Let's understand this with an example. Let's say you declare a variable in your program as student marks like this. Note that S here is small. Later in your code, when you want to use this variable, you write it like this. Note that S in this case is capital. You will get an error for undefined variable student marks. Since Java is case sensitive, this student marks is different from this student marks, which is different from this student marks. For Java, these are three different identifiers. So watch out for the case of your identifiers and don't let this problem happen to you. The next type of tokens are literals. Any constant value which can be assigned to the variable is called as literal. Some examples of literals are 500, which is an integer, 3.141, which is a floating point number, a, which is a character, hello, which is a string. There are also two special types of literals, the boolean literals represented by the words true and false, and the null literal represented by the word null. This is just an overview. I will have a lot more to say about literals after we complete our discussion about data types. Separators help define the structure of a program. There are 9 different types of separators in Java. The first separator is parenthesis. Parentheses are used at multiple places in Java. The parameters that a method can accept are enclosed within a set of parentheses in the method definition. While calling the method, the values of these parameters are also enclosed within parentheses. This use of parentheses will become clearer after our discussion of functions. The next place where parentheses are used is the expressions in control statements. We briefly looked at this during our discussion of if and for statements. We will revisit it again when we will discuss control statements in detail. The other places where parentheses are used are defining precedence in expressions and surrounding cast types. These usages will become clear after operators and data types discussion. Next separator is the braces. It is most commonly used for defining code blocks, which we saw earlier in this video. It is also used to contain values of automatically initialized arrays. Next separator is brackets. It is mainly used in arrays to declare array types and dereference array values. We will see its use in detail when we will discuss arrays. Next is comma. It is used to chain statements together inside a for loop. It also separates successive identifiers in variable declarations. Period is used to separate package names from sub-packages and classes. It is also used to select a field or method from an object. Semicolon is the most commonly used separator in Java. It is used to terminate statements. As you have seen in the program so far, Java compiler mandates that statements end with a semicolon. I'm mentioning these next three separators, colons, ellipses, and @ for completeness. ICSE Computer Applications syllabus doesn't cover them, so they are out of scope for this course. The last token that we will look at is the keyword. A keyword is a word that has a predefined meaning in the language. Due to this, keywords can't be used as names for variables, methods, classes, or any other identifier. Java language specification defines 61 keywords. The complete list is shown here. Underscore is a special case here. It was added as a keyword in JDK 9. Just by itself, it is considered a keyword and can't be used as a variable name. But Java will allow you to use it when it is combined with other characters. Let's look at a program to understand it. In the method demo underscore, here I have used only underscore as the name of an int variable. This line is marked an error. Let's look at the error message. The error message clearly tells us that underscore is a keyword added in release 9, so it can't be used as an identifier. Here I am using underscore in combination with other characters to name my integer variables. The compiler has no issues with these lines. It is not showing any error here. I will comment out the two lines where I have used just underscore as the variable name. I will compile and run this class. The class compiles fine now. Let me create an object of keyword demo class. Now I'll use this object to run the demo underscore method. The method executes without any issues. So, just by itself, underscore is an identifier and can't be used to name variables. But when combined with other characters, it can be used in variable names. Coming back to the list of keywords, the keywords const and goto are reserved but not used. So what could be the reason for reserving them? These keywords are used in C++. Reserving these keywords as keywords in Java helps the compiler to produce better error messages. If a programmer coming from C++ background uses these keywords incorrectly in Java, then the compiler can provide appropriate error messages to the programmer. You don't need to learn these keywords by heart, but it is good to have an idea about which words are reserved as keywords, because you can't use them as variable names in your programs.